So, hello everyone. This is Lilia. I am the People and Comms Manager at ICT, and I'm going to make a brief introduction to what the company does. And after me, then my teammates will talk about the data quality extended application and how it was developed. Ramon here is our senior project manager, and he will explain the challenge that this application is trying to fix. And then Eduardo and Ana will talk about the technical development of it, as they are part of our software development team. And first of all, so what is ICT? So we are a technology consultancy that works with NGOs, government institutions, and research centers in humanitarian projects and initiatives that drive positive global change. We have worked with some of the most impactful institutions, and we are supporting the technical environments to help them do their best. And one of the things that we are known for is inside the DHIS community, especially, is the DHIS2 suite, a set of applications that expand the functionalities of DHIS2. These are some of the applications that you can find in the suite, and you can learn more about it in our web. Actually, I have pinned a set of links in the chat. Ramon, I don't know if you can confirm if people can see it in the Meet chat. I have pinned a set of links. Okay, and there you will find a link to the suite, a link to the App Hub, and different sources. So yeah, and last thing from my side, you can keep learning more about what we do and how we do it, and what are the technical challenges that we face in a, sorry, that's my dog, in a newsletter that we are about to launch. We will talk about complex architectures, the deployments that we're doing, logistic, planning, visualization, all things health tech, sorry. So yeah, we will be waiting for you there. So I think that's pretty much everything from my side. Ramon?
Okay.
You go.
Let me quickly share my screen.
Yeah, I'm stopping.
Okay, so let's dig in and talk about data quality. Okay, I have a brief presentation, I promise, and then we jump into a live demo, okay, which is more appealing, I guess. Okay, so in DHIS2, as you all are aware of, we have like a lot of monitoring infrastructure. We can work with validation rules. We can work with dashboards that we create from scratch, like the one on the screen. We can work with outliers detection, but still we face the problem over and over again when we are doing reports on a monthly, on a yearly basis, because there are a lot of issues in the data quality, right? The question right now is not, can we detect such problems? Because we can, at least most of them. But the real question is what happens after the detection, right? Here I just have represented like the tools that we have natively in DHIS2, which I'm sure you all know well about. The first two are validation rules and outliers detection, which are part of the native application of DHIS2 coming from the University of Oslo team, which is the data quality application. And then on top of that, you can always create dashboards or reports in order to check specific data, analyze trends, and try to identify if there are any issues, right? These are useful, of course. Yeah, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but actually give it an extra layer, because detection is only 10% of the job, right? The other 90% is what you do once you have detected an issue, and here is where most organizations hit the wall, right? So what happens when we have done some issue identification and we have actually identified issues? The challenge that actually motivated the application is that DHIS2, as it is stated there, gives us a snapshot, but we just kind of want the whole history, right? Like a workflow for the issue. For example, there are questions that we cannot answer with the native DHIS2 application, right? Who owns a specific issue? Has anyone actually looked at it? Because we may identify issues, but we don't have a way of knowing if someone is taking care of it or not. Or also if it is actually wrong, because we can end up identifying some issues, for example, an outlier, that even though it is an statistical outlier, once you take a look into the data, it is a false positive because it is a good data, right? So pretty much the problem here is that in most setups, there is no way to document any of the answers of these questions. And without those answers, well, the organizations tend to improvise and end up facing the same problems that are listed here in these three boxes, right? The first one is what we call the spreadsheet abyss, which sounds a little bit dramatic, I guess. But we're talking here about the Excel export, right? A lot of times we tend to download the information into a spreadsheet or into any other sort of document, but then the document gets offline and it doesn't, and it's not connected anymore to DHIS2, so it gets outdated pretty much in the first day. So that's a problem. Another problem is the communication silos, right? You start discussing something over Teams or over a chat, then you move to WhatsApp, then you send an email chain, and there is no central place to track all decisions or changes. And the third problem, which is one of the most important ones probably, is that there is no ownership, there is no priority, and the issues tend to be open for months. You can always kind of create, for example, a column in the spreadsheet to say who is the owner of this and the priority. But once again, if the spreadsheet you downloaded, it gets outdated rather quickly. And it makes more sense to have everything in a centralized and online place, right? So to answer all these questions, once again, DHIS2 is great at detection. We are not saying otherwise, but there is no concept in DHIS2 of issue resolution workflow, right? On the left side here in the box, we put there what actually mean to detect an error, right? We have an issue detection, but it is just a single snapshot of the issue. We are just able to flag an issue, but in order to reach the right side of this slide, with what we actually needed, which is the issue ownership, to have like the full story and to have a workflow in order to fix it. It is not clear with the current tools in DHIS2 how do we get them, right? There is no ownership, there is no history, basically there is no process. It is not that we are in a need of a better algorithm in order to identify the detection, but we needed kind of a help desk, right? And this is where data quality extended actually comes into the picture. So basically for the data quality extended application that we built, and I'm going to show you just in a couple of minutes, we built it around three big pillars, right? The first one is the traceability. Basically, the issues become living records that get updated along the issue resolution process, which is great in order to keep track of everything that happens with a particular issue from the identification to the resolution, right? The second one is confirmed issues. Here we're talking about the false positives that I was mentioning before. We actually have a logic in place in order to not, so you stop chasing the same ghost, right? That is haunting you every month or every year when you are reviewing the very same data. And the last one, also probably the most important one, is centralization. Once again, as I mentioned before, all members working in one shared space. You will see it later in the demo, but the application, every user connected to the application will see the same dashboard, the same issues and so on, and they can cooperate with one with the other, right? And that's it. I guess enough with the talking. Let me show you what this looks like on a DHIS2 environment. So give me a second, and I'll just start presenting once again. Okay, so this is data quality extended, okay? Right now it is just deployed in a plain instance environment, but it is easily deployable. As of today, actually, the application is in the DHIS2 App Hub, so you can download it from there. There are a few things that you must do in order to install the application, but everything is included in the README description and so on, right? Okay, so this is the main layout that we have for the application. In here, we have all the analysis that you have run so far. In this case, we just have the analysis all coming from myself. I'm putting the name all the time here. Maybe I'm a bit egocentric. But if there were, for example, analysis from my colleague Ana, Eduardo, Lydia, or whatever, we would also see this analysis here, right? So I can access the analysis that is being created by Lydia, or Eduardo can check mine. We can assign issues to, or we can mention to each other how to work with the issue and so on. We have the name of the issue. We have the data set. for which the issue is being for the dataset where we are checking the issues. Right now, this data quality extended only supports datasets, but hopefully in the future we will also be able to support programs. The start and end date, that's the periodicity of the dataset that we're checking. For example, on this one, we are checking child health issues for the dataset child health and the periods 2024 and 2025, right? We have a status of the analysis as a whole, in progress or completed. We have the progress on the different steps that that are part of each analysis. In this case, outliers, validation, and manual issues, and the last modification date, right? You have here a little bit of contextual menu where you can open analysis, you can mark as complete with this badge, or you can actually delete one. But first of all, there is like a quick setup that you must do in here, which is set up the data quality analysis, right? I'm not going to set up a new one, but I'm just going to show you how the one that I have set up for the demo was done. Basically, here you select where you are going to store the data quality issues. These issues, in order to keep all the information that we're going to save for each issue, we need some place to store this information, and this place is a tracker program that we create in the backend, right? So in here, you are saying that all the issues that we are going to create and track are going to be included in this program, EST data quality issues. The metadata in order to create this program is also available as part of the application, right? In dataset selection, you select which datasets you want to do the data quality analysis. In this case, I selected child health and reproductive health. You can select as many as you want, but then each analysis will be done only for one particular dataset. This is just in case you want to save issues from various datasets into one single analysis, right? Then we have the configuration for the units and the start and end dates, as we saw before. This is once again the default analysis settings, right? When you are creating any new analysis, you can actually manipulate this and change it. Then we have some small configuration about the steps configuration for the 3 steps that I mentioned before. It is possible also, as part of the application, to prepare customized steps, even though it requires some coding. Probably Eduardo and Anna will tell you a little bit more about this later, right? And the summary just with a brief description of what we have set up. But let me go back to the list, and let me just create a new data quality report so you get an understanding of what it is actually being done by the application, right? So when you create a new data quality report, you can select one of the data sets that you want to run the analysis for. Let's say child health, okay? In here, you can use a name. So I'll just say IST webinar May 26, for example, right? And in here, you have the default settings that I was mentioning before. You have the org unit selected, but you can, for example, remove this and add this one, right? You have the start date and end date that you can manipulate. Let's keep this as they are, and let's save the configuration. Okay, so now that the quality analysis is prepared and ready to be run, we can go through the different steps, right? There is no specific order. We can just create an analysis and just run the outliers step. We can just run the validation step. We can just run the manual issues, or a combination of the 3 of them, okay? But let's go with the first one, outliers. So basically what this step does is it executes the very same thing that is being done if you access data quality application, the native one from the University of Oslo, and do the outliers detection, right? When you click on run, what it is currently being doing is it is calling the API in the backend and retrieving the outliers that may be identified. So in this case, it identified 2 issues, right? And let me explain you this other layout, which is also the most important one, I guess. This layout is the same in all the steps, right? So it helps you keep coherent across the whole analysis. And then at the end, we also have a summary tab, which includes all the issues from all the steps. So from the description to the left, these are information that gets created automatically by the application. And from the status to the right, this is information that you can play with actually, and it can help you a lot in terms of tracking the issue, keeping track of who is working on it, which is the status, and so on. So from left to right, we have the issue, which is just a unique code for each of the issues. We have the org unit, where the issue is present. We have the period, in this case, September 2024 and January 2024. We have the data element, this one, and children supplied in this case. The category, in case there is a category associated with the data element, in this case there is, and the description of the issue. In this case, since we ran the outliers detection, it is saying that there was an outlier detected using this algorithm, Z-score, with a value of 3.02, which is over the threshold free configure, right? So until this point, this is the information that the application gives you. This, you also have it if you access the native application and you run outliers detection. What comes with the application, and which is the good part of this application and the main feature, is that you can, for each of the issues, you have an entity, an actionable item that you can play with and work on it, right? So for example, this issue, I can say that the status is not treated, but actually it is in treatment because maybe I'm reviewing it. I can mark it for follow-up. I can select any action that I want to do. For example, I need this to be modified directly by the headquarters office or whatever, right? Or for example, this one, instead of not treated, I can say that it is waiting for focal point, right? And in here, I can put also a comment, right? This is a free text. So I can say shared with Eduardo to be checked, right? And this can be saved as well. We also have here a gear icon that allows you to configure the setting, the column setting, so you can see all the columns that we've seen. There are two additional ones that I'm not showing you to keep it simple, but basically it's just a couple of additional text fields. One in order to keep track of Kanban or Jira ticketing system URL in case you want to create tickets associated with these issues. And another one is an action description where you can, for example, comment with a focal point that what is required for this particular issue, right? This layout, once again, is available for all the steps. We'll see it now. And just to finish with the explanation, we have here on top pretty common filters. So you can select just to show the issues with data modification from headquarters, a specific issue, a specific status, sorry, and so on, right? So let's move to the next one, validation. This step, once again, we are not reinventing the wheel here. What we are doing is we are running the validation rules, which are also available in the data quality application from University of Oslo, right? So in here you have a list of all the validation rule groups for which you have permissions, right? So let me run quickly this one, immunization, right, and run. Right now it is being run the analysis. The thing here is that we are doing like tons of requests to DHS2. In this case, we are doing requests for all the validation rules, including the validation rule group for the org unit that we selected, and for 2024 and for 2025, yeah, right? Because this was what we set up in the configuration. You can obviously set up like a lot of org units and a lot of periods, but it will take more time, obviously, because the request that you have to do to the backend will increase, right? But it will, at some point, it will finish. Instead of taking 10 seconds as it took right now, maybe it takes you 2 or 3 minutes, but you can take advantage of that and grab a coffee or something, right? Okay, so for the validation, once again, the same layout that we explained before, the issue, the org unit, the period, no data element, category mentioned as total, because these are just validation rules. And the description, in this case, we are mentioning for each validation rule, in this case, this one, that it failed because, and this is the check that the validation rule is doing right now, right? Once again, you can say that this is in treatment, you can say that this one is waiting for focal point, and you can start working with a different task and update the status as long as you advance in the resolution of the issues. Once again, to keep it clear, the changes that I'm doing here are included in the DHS2, so it's not something only for me, but for everyone accessing this analysis. So if, for example, Eduardo, Lydia, Anna, my colleagues were to access the application right now, they would see this analysis, they would see that this status is in treatment, they would see that this task is waiting for focal point, and they can take the relay, work on some issues, share with me other ones, which helps to make it as collaborative as possible, right? There is one specific status that I didn't mention, which is the dismissed one, which is the one that we use for the false positive, right? The good thing about the dismissed ones is that it gets kind of stored in the memory of the application. So you can say here, for example, let's imagine on comments, this is a false positive, double check, right? So let's imagine that I check this issue and it is in fact not an issue. I can set it as dismissed and this comment. So any additional analysis that we run also for this org unit and for these very same periods, it would pick up this issue over and over again if you do it outside this application, if you do it with the native application. But in this case, since it is marked as dismissed, every time that you run once again this analysis, you create another analysis, but with the same periods and or units, this issue will be created automatically inheriting this dismiss status and these comments. So you don't need to check once again this issue, and then you say, oh, I forgot, this was checked last year. You get this information already, so you can focus on the real issues and not the ones that you've already worked on over the past months or years, right? And last, we have the manual issues, okay? This is just in order to complete the analysis. We have the outliers and validations that I just showed you for the manual issues. We can create actually manual issues that we want to set up as a reminder, or some checks that we cannot do with validation rules or that will not be picked up by the outliers detection, but we want to do, right? So let's imagine that I say here, double check values against, I don't know, against WHO's official report, right? I can select which periods I want to create this issue, 2025 or 2024, or both of them. Let me select both. In here, I'm just seeing the periods for which I configure the analysis, right? Data element, all the data elements from this data set. Let's select this OPV0 doses given, and category options, if any. Let's select fixed, less than 1 year and more than 1 year. Once again, there are units for which this issue will be created. In this case, only this one is available because, once again, this is the configuration that we did at the beginning of the analysis. I can select it, and you see here that it will create 4 different issues. That's because we are combining all the possible options in what it's called a product, Cartesian product, right? So let me create it quickly so you get a hold of what I'm talking about. Once again, same layout, okay? So it is easy for everyone to keep track of it. And what we did here is to create for 2024 and 2025 for the very same data element for the 2 different categories that I selected, less than 1 year and more than 1 year in 2024, and less than 1 year and more than 1 year in 2025. The description that we used, and once again, the status in treatment, resolved, and so on, right? And last, to finish with the demo, just a quick look at the summary. But in summary, actually, you find what you would think of in a summary. You get all the issues from all the steps, right? With the status, because this obviously is the very same issue that we've already seen in the outliers. If I change here, for example, from treatment to waiting for focal point, this one, and I go back to outliers, it is already updated, right? Because it is the very same data element. And in here, it is just a full list of all the issues you can filter. And last but not least, you can export it into a spreadsheet. We do not encourage this because, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, exporting this into an offline document, even if you move it to a SharePoint or wherever, it becomes more difficult because you don't get the updated data from the HS2. So it is not something that we encourage, but we all know how humans are. We are used to working with a spreadsheet, so we are giving you this option as well, right? And that's pretty much it. Let me go back a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, we have a question in the chat.
Sure. Give me a second. Thank you, Mayamiko. Other question, do you validate? Do your validation validate final disaggregation? For example, instead of validating totals, it is validating, can you validate males less than 15 years and females less than 15 years? Yeah, I mean, actually, the validation that we are running here are the rules that we're validating here are validation rules created in the instance, right? So let me jump quickly out of the instance of the application. So the validation that we are running here are actually validation rules that are part of selective immunization. So all these validation rules are the ones that were running when I selected it. So for example, in this case, it was running all this. I can select, if I go to the validation rule, I can see which are the validation rules that are being triggered. So all this was what was being checked. And with the left side expression and the right side expression, you can actually create very complicated checks or rules to be checked. So answering to your question, my amigo, it would just be required to create the validation rules that actually address the checks that you want to do, include them into a validation rule group, and when you're running the analysis, just select that validation rule, and all these checks will be done automatically. Okay.
Good. Thank you, Ramon.
Sure. Let me go back quickly to the presentation just for one small additional piece of information, and then I share it with, we'll move to the technical. Okay. Okay, and here we're just summing up the features that we are building toward, right? The things that we think that could improve the application. These are on the roadmap, even though they are not yet fully funded, right? So the first one is a native user assignment. You've seen during the demo that I can mention, hey, Eduardo, check this, or hey, Anna, take care of this, but it is not being assigned like at the system level. We think it would be great to implement it so the accountability stays inside VHS2, and you can actually get a list of users and assign it to one of them, right? So they get actually the full accountability for it. The second thing that we could improve is the notification system. VHS2 comes, as you are aware of, with a pretty powerful native notification system. Sorry, and it is our idea to integrate this with the application. So when you are assigning an issue to a particular user, when you are changing the status of the issue, you will get notifications into the DHIS2 system or even emails and so on, so you can keep on top of it very quickly, right? The third one is better exports. Once again, even though we don't want to take the analysis outside, we all know that's not going to happen, right? So we would like to improve the structure and better look and feel for the exports that we're doing. Right now, they are pretty plain format, just text, and we could improve the look and feel and so on, right? And the last one are configurable menus. You've seen that in the statuses that you could select, the actions that you could select, they have like these different options. These options right now are hard-coded, like waiting for focal point, dismiss, and so on. And it would be great to make them configurable so they can address different needs depending on the organization, right? And last, as you all know, we are an open source company. This app obviously is open source. So if this solves a problem that you have, please use it, of course. If you have the technical expertise to actually adapt it to match your requirements, please do, because this is available on our public repository on GitHub. And if you need any help with adapting the application to match your requirements, just give us a call, okay? And that's pretty much it from my side. I already explained to you what we implemented and why, and now I'll let Eduardo and Anna explain you how it was built, because these were the two engineers that built this application. Eduardo will be talking a little bit about the metadata structure and how D2Logger tracks the issues, D2Logger being another one of our applications. And Anna will talk us about how we made the application generic and not just a one-off custom solution. Over to you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Ramon.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Here. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about two technical aspects we took into account while developing the application. The first one is the metadata structure that the application requires in order to work correctly. And the second one is the use of D2Logger, which is a library that we built at ICT. And that in this app, we use to save the issues of every data quality report. So about the metadata structure, as you can see in this diagram, we have the following structure. We have a DHIS2 tracker program. As you saw in the demo that Ramon just presented, when you create a data quality report, the first steps show you the configuration where you can assign a name, a start and an end date, a module, which under the hood is just a data set, the period, and the organization unit. So all this information in the end is persisted into the track entity attributes defined for this tracker program. So in other words, each data quality report is a track entity instance of this program. And of course, we have a program stage. We have the program stage we use to group different logic that we apply to generate the issues. Just on the demo, we have a program stage for outliers, where we use the DHIS2 outliers API to detect and generate the issues. We have one for the validation rules, where we also rely on the DHIS2 validation rules API. And one for manual issues, which is where the user can enter the data directly, as you saw in the demo. And each program has the same structure of data elements. Some of those data elements have option sets associated with them, as you saw for the status or for the action information of every issue. So as you can see, there is a lot of metadata needed to read and store a data quality report along with its issues. So at the beginning, this application was not a generic application. So if you wanted to use the application, you must have all this metadata in your DHIS server. So this led us to the first challenge, that was making sure that when the application starts, all this metadata is already available in the DHIS2 instance. So to solve it, we decided to predefine a set of code for the metadata inside the application. This is just like a very old code, as you can see, 2 years ago. So all this metadata, we have the predefined codes. So you need to create all the metadata with this specific code, which was like a good solution for the beginning of the application, because it was not a generic one, but just like a custom solution. And then we use all these codes and pass it into the metadata endpoint, where we fetch all this information. So that way we make sure that when the application start up, we have all the metadata defined, and so the application can work correctly. You know? And the reason we do this at the beginning, at the startup of the application, was to offer a better user experience, because we can like right away check if any of the required metadata is missing or something like that, instead of running into a broken states later in the application, like maybe in the middle of analysis. But this process has changed, because now the application is generic, but Anna will give you more details onto this later. So this is about the metadata structure, and then also I want to talk to you about D2Logger. This is a library that we build at ICT. This is basically a library that allows you to register logs as events in a DHIS2 event program or a tracker program, or even you can just display the logs on the console if that's what you want. And the idea of using D2Logger is that instead like dealing with all the APIs to save events or tracker events, and D2Logger makes this easier by just giving you these methods where you can just call logger.debug and pass the message, and then or in this case a debug and info, etc. It depends on what kind of type of message you want to store. And D2Logger is going to take under the hood everything. If you use an event program, it will save in an event program. It will take care of all the APIs that are the tracker endpoints of all of them. So you don't need to write like the whole implementation. So I have just a flow here. Basically, how are we storing the issues in in the application, we have a use case. A use case is just like an internal model that we have in the code. It contains all the logic that we use to generate the issues. So we have like a use case for the outliers process, or a use case for the validation rules, for the manual issues process. All of them has their specific use case where we generate all the issues, all the information from the issues. And once we have all the information from the issue, basically we do a match. As you can see, as you saw here, all the issues at the end are tied to a specific metadata, like data elements, a program stage. So basically, here we have a process where we match all the information from the issues to the metadata, and then we just pass that information into D2Logger. It's like we say, D2Logger, here is my information. Here's the data elements you need to use to save all the issues and save it as for this particular program state, for this particular track entity, and then D2Logger is going to just take all this information and interact with all the APIs that is necessary for creating all these events. Once D2Logger is ready, it's just going to give you all the information. So we take all the results and we show back into the application. So here you can see, if you have like if you know how to code, you can see that instead like interacting with all the DHIS2 tracker endpoints, we're just calling logger info and passing the information, and that's it. We don't need to like interact with the DHIS2 tracker endpoints. So this saves a lot of time and also a lot of lines of code. So this is, of course, an open source library. So if you are interested, you can check. You will see that the links to the repository into the comments as well. So that's it from my part. And I'll hand over now to Anna, who is going to show you how now the application is generic. You don't need to have like a specific metadata with this specific code anymore. And Anna will explain more about this process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eduardo. Let me share the screen. Okay, so I'm going to display how we go from a custom application to a generic application. Well, before, as Eduardo has explained, we have in the code directly all the metadata codes, hard code. So everything was configured into the code. We have the only one fixed analysis program. We can only analyze everything. We can only analyze 2 modules that we have fixed in the code. Also, we have fixed analysis steps. So this worked well for its original purpose, but it had a clear limitation. If a different organization wanted to use this application with their own data quality setup and with their own data sets, they couldn't. So the app wouldn't recognize the program, the data sets, anything. So for that, we follow some steps. The challenge was, how do you make an application that can work with any organization, any naming convention, and with any analysis workflow without changing the code each time, this code that Eduardo has explained. So the answer for that was to move all the fixed configuration out of the code and into the app's own configuration storage, and give administrators the way to set it up through the app itself. Basically, we move all the, well, let's say all the configuration that Eduardo has shown, we move it directly to the data store here. So here inside this namespace, we have everything, all the configurations that we need for the application working. Well, when you download the application, you need to fulfill some prerequisites regarding the metadata, some metadata requirements. So the most important thing, well, it's everything in the README of the repository. So it's a very easy guide you can follow to create these metadata requirements. I'm going to point that the most important thing here is that the all codes and names must be identical to the ones described in this document, but you can replace the prefix by anything. Like, for example, if it's a malaria project mal or WHO or whatever. So, for example, we have here, well, this is the code of the program, like the template for the code of the program. So you should replace the prefix by the code that you choose. And then replace in every track entity type, data elements, track entity attributes, option set, everything that is described in this file, you should replace prefix by this other prefix that you have chosen. Then another important thing is that you should save this template structure in the data store, but in the key program template here, programs template, because this well, this is used for in the code. It reads the code is, well, maybe I can go to the code directly, because here in the code, instead of expecting these specific codes for all the metadata elements, the application resolves them dynamically. It reads the program template that I have shown from the data store, and then extracts this prefix from the program code and substitutes across all data elements, yeah, the option sets, also the data entity attributes. So with those resolved codes, the application knows exactly which DHIS2 metadata objects belongs to the program. Once this metadata is configured, the admin or the person in charge of this can go to the application. We have created one module here for setting everything in the application. So we have here a wizard with 5 steps, very, very simple steps. Let me go. We can show this one. These are the steps that Ramon has shown you. So in the first step, you can, well, Ramon has explained this, you select the location for data analysis issues, you select the data sets. Here you can select more than one data set. Then the default analysis settings, and yeah, the steps configuration. Here, let me go to our test environment, because I want to show you that we implement some customizations. Now, instead of having these fixed steps for the analysis workflow, you can rename and choose custom name, or you can move the step order. Everything that you set up here, you will have it in the data store. So you will have the settings for the default settings. You will have these steps for the custom names and the orders. Yeah. So also to explain that in this, well, we have these 3 steps that are like the generic steps that we support in the application, but you can add more steps if you add the corresponding component in the UI. This has to be done by development, but it's very easy because we isolate the code, and it was just to add here like another component, and then add in one place of the application of the code the needed code when you run here. When you click on run, you will need to add this code also in the code. So this is all for the setup wizard. Once you have this setup, now you will have like you can select between the different programs that you have configured, and then you can do the analysis directly. So to sum up, the 3 changes that we applied here for made generic application was this prefix system for being able to delete the hard codes from the code and use the data store. The setup wizard, which allows the admin to set up the default settings, the dataset, the program, and also the workflow steps. That's all by my side. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for any of us? Okay. It looks like we don't have any more questions. However, we are available for you. You can email hello@ict.com just in case you want to know more about this. And you can also follow us in social media. And of course, please join the newsletter because we will be sharing more of this interesting stuff, both on the project and mission side and on the technical side as well. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Ramon, Eduardo, and Ana, and hope to see you in the next one.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.